So yeah, just get started here. Sometimes there are some initial hurdles or things that can be obstacles to getting started with therapy to begin with. So was there any specific tipping point that made you decide to book the first session?
Yeah, so we've been together have been married and been together for quite a number of years before we decided to book the session. And even up to that point, we were never a couple that fought or had a lot of arguments. We never had, any traumatic events. Definitely no abuse experiences, anything that you would think of for people leading to divorces. And so marital counseling was just never anything on our radar for a long time because we didn't think we needed it. But the tipping point for us was when a friend of ours got divorced, and that was our first time that we had close friends that were separating, and this was a couple that always had kind of the picture perfect, image. Had lived in suburbia and great jobs, beautiful kids, and they seemed to always get along whenever we were around them. So there was never any tension. So it really shocked us, and for me, it made me wonder, well, gosh, if it happened to them, it could happen to us.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, we were also, I think, about a year into COVID.
Okay.
So we had, lived very, very different lives. Or not different lives, but we had both kind of woken up, gone our separate ways, come together in the evening.
Yeah.
And we both were forced to work from home. And so then when we went to being around each other 24/7,
Yeah.
365 days a year at that point, we had a young son, and he stayed home for a while from daycare. So that was an added burden with trying to do our jobs and take care of him. And I think we were starting to drift apart a little bit or get on each other's nerves. And I think, having that stressor and then seeing our friends who probably were suffering or going through the same kind of thing, both of them being at home at that time, I think, like my wife said, is something that really pushed us to ask ourselves if it could happen to us.
Yeah. And then did you both decide, or did one of you decide, hey, we should contact somebody?
I think I was the one that initiated it, but my husband kind of surprisingly agreed to it without too much resistance.
Okay.
At least, just checking it out, exploring therapy.
Okay. Yeah. How did your individual expectations of therapy differ before you started?
I went into our initial sessions thinking again that our marriage was in excellent health, and that we just needed a kind of a initial assessment and maybe a few follow-up sessions, and then that we'd be good to go. So I did not at all think years later that we would still be needing your services. So so it definitely differed in that way for me.
It's hard to think back to my mindset 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think I was probably more reluctant than I let on. I'm not one that has historically shared my feelings, talked about this kind of stuff. My family didn't, growing up, my family didn't express ourselves in that way. And we had not really done that much in our marriage or relationship prior to that point. So I don't really remember what I expected. I probably, to be honest, didn't expect much. Just because I didn't think that we would really change our ways too much. So I don't know. It's like I said, it's been 5 years, so it's hard to get back in that mindset. But I know that I might have agreed to it quickly because I realized that not doing so would be detrimental to my relationship.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm fairly certain that I was pretty hesitant to do it in the first place.
Okay. Sure. What were some of your biggest fears or hesitations about opening up to a stranger?
I mean, just like I mentioned, that's not something that I was brought up to do. It was, just kind of internalize everything.
Yeah.
I mean, still to this day, we've talked about for years how my default when I get stressed out or any sort of stressor is to just seclude myself because seclusion is what allows me to kind of find my thoughts, and that's kind of how I was raised, and my family still operates to a certain extent. And so I think, my hesitation was just like, I've never talked about this to anyone.
Yeah.
And if we are having difficulties, if there is some animosity or stressor between us, if you avoid it long enough, it goes away.
Oh.
That was kind of like my mindset. So just even sharing with my wife these things that I was feeling was something that I was and still do struggle with because it's just still ingrained in me that I deal with my own problems.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Did you have any hesitations?
I think I share some of the sentiments that my husband said, but I would also say that I was one of my fears was judgment.
Okay.
Opening up to whether a stranger or someone that I knew, because you are sharing your most personal part of your world,
Yeah.
and you have to be vulnerable to be able to do that. So so getting out of your comfort zone certainly is for me something I don't like doing, and going into this. So
Yeah, definitely feels like you're getting out of your comfort zone and taking some risks, and yeah, totally get that. So after you get past the initial hurdles, the next stage you can go into in the therapy process, you start to get into the learning process, where maybe you start to figure some things out, or learn some things about yourself or about each other. What was the most significant thing that you learned about yourself through the lens of the relationship?
One of the things I think back to our early sessions is the realization that my wife is a fixer.
Okay.
And so, a lot of times she would come and try to lay out solutions, and I wasn't looking for solutions. I was just looking for just someone to agree with me, maybe, or empathize with me. And I think that was it was good for both of us, because I think it allowed her to understand some of the actions she was taking unintentionally, or she was trying to help. But understanding for me, like, that's not what I was looking for.
Yeah.
But then it helped me understand her mindset. I was internalizing, like, why doesn't she just leave me alone? Why doesn't she just give me my space? Why is she trying to tell me what to do all the time?
Yeah.
But then it helped me realize, like, she was trying to help. She was, in her mind, trying to fix things and take the burden off me. So I think that allowed both of us to kind of understand where we each were coming from. And I definitely think that, when I think back to those early days, but even still, like, the actions we take when we do go through stressful moments has changed in the way that we interact with each other. I do remember, not so much anymore, but back then it's like, what are you looking for me to do right now? Right? Do you want solutions, or do you just want me to say that sucks? And I think that was a big thing when we first started, is to dial that down a notch, where before it would have blown up and we would have been mad at each other. But then that helped us kind of get past that initial stage of frustration.
Okay. Yeah. What would you say?
He took my answer. But another thing I will add that I learned about myself, through the lens of a relationship and therapy, is gosh, how much of my upbringing has influenced not only my marriage but my relationship with others. Um, yeah. I mean, I was pretty blown away to see how much of that still shapes me, and I'm trying to work through that trauma, I guess, and so yeah. So I mean, I've always hear how much I've seen your parents' marriage can influence your own, and I didn't really take much stock in that, but yeah, I can see and how much I picked up from my parents unconsciously over the years.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does, right? Yeah. Yeah. What were there any tools or exercises or things that you learned that you actually use in your daily life now?
I think one of the things that we do habitually now is, being a lot more expressing gratitude to each other. So, and it's the little things. So thanking for preparing dinner or getting our kid ready in the morning for school. And so that's something that we picked up on over the years of seeing you.
Okay.
And I know this wasn't, the intent of our meetings, but I mean, our relationship with our son, has I think improved just from some of the tools that we've learned in dealing with each other.
Sure.
My wife is much better about this than I am, but when our son gets worked up, she is like, I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
I understand what you're saying. I understand that you're frustrated. I'm not very good at that still.
Yeah.
It's more of a do what I say because I'm in charge, which usually backfires. But I know she is I see that almost, not daily anymore, but definitely on a regular basis when our son is getting emotional, when he is getting frustrated. She has used those tools that we've learned with you in interacting with him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's many things that affect a relationship. I mean, there's your job, there's your family, there's your kids. I mean, there's all kinds of things. So yeah, if you can learn from this experience, the ways that you can understand each other better as parents, or coming from that perspective, that's great. Okay. So I guess the next part I thought we'd talk about is the overall experience, some of your likes and dislikes. So the unexpected, what part of the process was completely different from maybe what you would see on movies or TV or what's out there, if there was anything?
I would say, what probably is different reality versus what you would see in a TV or a movie is the speed of progress.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is that these changes to improve your marriage often is going to take much longer than you think.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen within an hour of
Right.
a show. So, things will click in your head, but you're not necessarily going to see an instant transformation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good.
And I think a lot of times the depiction in movies and TV shows is when people are like, it's a last resort before they get divorced. We were not at that stage. I hope we weren't close to that stage when we first started meeting with you. But I mean, fast forward a year or 2 years, we could have easily been like, no, we're good now. Like we're in a better place. But I think, I credit my wife. To be honest, I was kind of like, all right, we're good.
Yep.
But my wife was very much like, well, let's just keep the monthly. I think we originally started weekly or every other week. Mm-hmm. And after a year or two moved to monthly, and she was like, let's keep the monthly meeting on the calendar, just as a check-in. And I think it's helped. Like we've talked about things, and there are things that we talk about 3, 4, 5 years in that it's like, how did this go 4 years without coming up?
Yeah.
But it's a an opportunity for us to take time out of our day. Usually, Friday mornings are a little slow. We've always met on Fridays, and so that kind of gives us a break from the mental week going into the weekend. But as we prepare for the sessions too, like when we were first meeting, we had homework.
Yeah.
And so it forced us, usually Thursday night, to actually talk about it, so we didn't get any failing grades. But then, even now, like after our sessions are over, and I think this is kind of leading into another question later, but like we don't most months we don't stop and say, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
And I think going back to the original questions, like what different from TV, I feel like on TV shows, you're into your session and then you're like, okay, you go about your day.
Yeah.
So I think we really do try to take the time to after the session kind of keep that going and talk about some of the things that we discussed in our meeting. And I mean, you just don't see that in the media, right?
Sure.
It's what do we do to just avoid divorce? And I think that just the ongoing maintenance and our discussions have just improved our relationship, even if we're not on the doorstep of separation.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely, and I think we'll get into this a little bit later, the switching from the initial reasons that you came, and then kind of as you go along, yeah, things are better, but everything's not resolved, and there's things that you just need maintenance with or check-ins with. And then the other part, kind of like what you mentioned, you come to therapy for an hour, and that's not it. I mean, you've got to continue to do the work and continue to talk and think about things outside of here, which you guys have done, which has helped, it sounds like. So the next one here is, what did your therapist, that would be me, what did your therapist do, if anything, to make you feel safe or understood?
I think, you've demonstrated, great active listening, with us over the years. And, you'll often reference, things we said in previous sessions, even I forget. And, and so you're remembering, shows that you really do have been engaged in listening attentively. So, for me, that builds trust and comfort with you. So,
Okay.
And also just I mean, going back to my initial fear of judgment, and I think with you, you've done a great job of not feeling like I'm being judged, and that it truly is a safe space.
Good. I mean, that makes me feel good that I could provide that. Yeah.
And I think I appreciate that you've shared about your personal life at times. When we've shared something with you, you've said, "Oh, okay. Well, I went through this," or I, not naming individuals, or like I have, other people I've met have gone through this, and I think that going back to the TV question is, when you see a therapist in maybe not a marriage counselor, but like a therapist in a TV show where they kind of lean back with their pencil and it was just like, tell me about this. And the person just talks for an hour while the therapist takes notes. And I think that I've appreciated you sharing, like when we've had different struggles, you've said, well, I went through this.
Yeah.
Like my family's a little bit older than yours, and I remember when we were at that stage.
Yeah.
I think that's, as a couple who are not ingrained to share with people at all, is like, there are people that struggle with the same things that we're struggling with. We would never know that because we'd never just open up to people about that, outside of this context. So I think having that understanding has been, something that I've really appreciated.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think you've shared that before, but I appreciate that. I strongly believe that one very important part about the whole therapy process is this is a relationship. It's a different kind of relationship, but it's a relationship. It's hopefully doesn't feel just kind of cold and clinical and kind of like you said, somebody just taking back, judging or taking notes. And also kind of like what you were saying as far as, ways that you feel comfortable or that you build trust. When you can share, hey, yes, I'm a therapist, but I'm also human. I have a family. I've gone through similar things. That should hopefully help, And it sounds like it has. So, let's see. The next one on here was how did you handle the therapy hangover? So maybe some emotional exhaustion that often follows if you guys had a particularly tough session.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of highlighted that upon that earlier. When we do have a session that ends, we are lucky in that most Fridays generally we both get to work from home,
Yeah.
or both are able to work from home. So when we meet online, we turn the camera off, and if it's been a particularly emotional session, we don't just immediately go back to work and say,
Yeah.
"Well, see you at lunchtime or see you at dinner." We do take the time to kind of there are things that I'm sure that we still don't feel comfortable sharing with you, and that we don't want to talk about on our call. That the camera goes off, we end the call, and we do talk about those things.
Yeah.
Because we are vulnerable at that time. We have opened up some, and so I think we feel more comfortable kind of keeping that discussion going. I'm not saying we stay there for the next hour,
Sure.
but I mean, just having that embrace. There are times when we've just ended the call and just embraced for a few minutes. I think has been something that it's been beneficial that we could do it online.
Yeah.
Because we're not the kind of couple that would go out to the parking lot and be like, let's have an embrace here in the parking lot.
Sure.
So having the ability to kind of turn the camera off and just be in our own space, our own comfort,
Yeah.
I think has actually been a benefit than maybe if we had been in person. And then we've had to be like, okay, we need to get home, and now I got a meeting to go to,
Yeah.
and I don't have that time to kind of decompress together.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. Anything you would add to that?
No, I think you said pretty well.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of couples will share with me kind of how they do a debrief, after a session, but particularly a hard session like that. But the fact that, you'll make it a point to do that, kind of take advantage of that, like you said, is great. I mean, that's really good. Okay.